If the modernism of the 1800s that virtually destroyed the mainline Christian denominations taught us anything, it's that the horrific consequences were 1. Gradual, 2. Unexpected, 3. Came from within the church from otherwise respectable pulpits and ministries, and 4. The rallying cry was unity and love over doctrine and truth. Are we, the modern church, destined to repeat those same mistakes with pragmatism, a new name for the same old carnal philosophies? Well, one way to see just how pragmatism and worldly thinking has slipped unnoticed into the church is to ask yourself how closely your church parallels the following list.
10 steps to becoming a pragmatic church. 1. Preach the gospel in such a way that the emphasis is not on counting the cost where Jesus placed it, but rather on how easy it is to believe. 2. Before someone's salvation, emphasize something they must do in order to be saved, like coming forward at an altar call, or praying a sinner's prayer, or making the decision for Christ versus placing the emphasis on their sin and the need for approaching a loving but holy God for divine mercy. 3. Teach half-truths as if they were whole truths, which makes them untruths. 4. Misinterpret Scripture by teaching that grace replaces holiness instead of produces holiness. 5. Teach, or at least imply, to the congregation that grace and law, love and truth, and faith and works are opposite one another, and teach, or imply to the Christian, the law is no longer relevant or necessary, and that strict obedience to the commands of God is legalism, or for more serious disciples. 6. Use fleshly, worldly things like lavish cafes and bookstores and dramas and big-screen TVs and excessive humor and entertainment to attract unbelievers so that you can evangelize them before they profess Christ, and then teach them that carnal, worldly lifestyles are acceptable after they profess Christ. 7. Downplay, avoid, or outright ignore the biblical teachings that create humility in man and that exalt God, like the sovereignty of God, holiness, election, the total depravity of man, etc. 8. Teach the means of grace, prayer, Bible study, fellowship, communion, etc., as if they're not necessary. Make them optional, and only when we feel led, and imply that any real work or effort or time put into those areas is legalism. 9. Be seeker-friendly. That means minimize, dilute, or add humor to any preaching that might be perceived as offensive or judgmental. Don't go overboard on preaching about holiness, fear, sin, or worldliness, and only discuss hell whenever necessary. And when you do preach on those subjects, mix in a good amount of humor and light stories, and avoid at all costs sending people away feeling condemned or guilty. 10. Place ease of understanding, practical application, and being relatable above biblical accuracy, because people these days don't like to be preached at.